Everybody wants to know this number. Jay, how much do you think I need to live in Dominican Republic? Can I live off of $2,000 a month? What about $1,500 a month? Jay, I seen somebody on YouTube that said you can live off $1,000 a month. And every time I see this question, I understand why people are asking it, because we've been sold a dream about living abroad. Pack your bags, move somewhere tropical, find your apartment for $500, eat cheap, sit on the beach, and all of a sudden, you're free. But after living here for 5 years, I realized something. That is the biggest lie that we've been told about moving abroad. And it's not because you can't live cheaply, because you can. There are people here in Dominican Republic that lives off $1,200 a month. And there's probably some that lives much cheaper than that. But here's the part people don't tell you. Living cheap and living well are two different things. And I think we've become a little obsessed by asking the question, how little money do I need to live abroad? That we're asking the wrong questions. I didn't move abroad to see how little of money that I can live on. I moved abroad to see how well I can actually live. And right there is the difference. Let me give you an example. You have someone who tells you, my rent here in Dominican Republic is $500 a month. Okay, that sounds good, but I have some questions that I want to ask. Where's the apartment? What does the apartment look like? What neighborhood is it in? Does it have air conditioner? Does the building have a backup generator when the power goes out? Is there security? Is there parking? Is it furnished? How far is it from places that you like to actually visit? Would you feel comfortable there? And the most important question, would you want to live there? And that's what gets left out of these conversations. People will show you the price, but what they don't show you is the life that comes with that price. And let me say this, because I know people get touchy when you start talking about this because they already feel inferior. I'm not criticizing anybody that has an apartment for $500. This video is just for me to make a point. Because if you're happy there, that's all that matters. Because your definition of comfortable may not be my definition, and mine may not be yours. And that's why when people say, I can live in Dominican Republic for $1,500 a month, my answer is, what kind of life are we talking about? Because I can probably show you where you can live in this country for extremely cheap, but it may not be the same life that you were dreaming about or pictured when you were sitting back home in your home country. And here's why I think people make the mistake. They create these fantasy budgets, and trust me, I'm guilty of everything that I'm sharing with you right now. When I moved here to Dominican Republic, our budget for rent was about $500 to $700. $700 was the max. We ended up getting an apartment for $1,200. And the reason is because the apartment that we were living in Fort Lauderdale was a luxury style type apartment with elevators, gyms, conference rooms, and things like that. And when we moved here, we realized we still wanted that particular lifestyle. So $700 was not going to give us that particular lifestyle. So we had to up our budget, because I'm thinking to myself, hey, I'm moving abroad. We're not gonna need much. I'm gonna live simple. I'm gonna eat local. I'm not gonna spend much money. I'm just gonna enjoy life. That's what we tell ourselves, or at least that's what some of us tell ourselves. Okay, maybe, but I'm here to tell you now, one of the biggest challenges of traveling as a content creator is not finding room for my camera gear, it's finding room for my clothes. Every time I gotta travel between Dominican Republic and the United States, I gotta take my drone, I gotta take my DJI Pocket 3, laptop, microphone, chargers, batteries, hard drives, and before you know it, half of my carry-on is already full. So you know what I had to do? I had to get smarter in how I pack. And lately, I've been using the Aerless Vacuum Kit, and it has made a huge difference. I pack all my shirts, my shorts, my jeans, and everything into these vacuum bags. And then I use the portable USB-C air pump to compress them. And it only takes a minute, and it cuts down on the amount of space that my clothes take up. And listen, these bags are durable, they're waterproof, and not to mention, odor-proof, so everything stays clean, organized while you're traveling. And then once I get to my destination, guess what I do? I use those same bags for my dirty laundry before heading home. And what I like the most now is I'm not trying to squeeze every single thing in my bag anymore. By compressing the clothes, I now have room for my camera gear that I have to create content with without having to get another check bag. So if you travel for work, or you create content, or you just want to make room for more space in your travel luggage, definitely check out Aerless Vacuum Kit. I'll leave the link in the video description below. Just because your passport changes doesn't automatically mean your standards are going to change. And that's what happened to us. We moved, but our standards didn't change. We wanted to maintain those same standards. Now, don't get me wrong, we could have. And it wouldn't have been a problem because there are nice $500 to $700 apartments. They are, but they're mostly in either the north part of the city or the east part or even the west part of the city, and not many of them right here in the central Distrito Nacional area. And if they are, they're in places that I know I wouldn't want to live if they're in the Distrito Nacional area. Out in Estate, they have plenty of nice $500 to $700 apartment, brand new, which is nice. But it's away from the city, and I didn't want to be away from the city. North, they the same. They got brand new apartments unfurnished on the north side of the city. Nice apartments, nice communities, but it's away from the city. Because if you're living in a nice place now, guess what? You're gonna wanna live in a nice place here. If you like eating at good restaurants there, you're gonna wanna eat at good restaurants here. If you like conveniences where you are now, you're gonna be willing to pay for conveniences here. If you have a car now, eventually you may decide that you wanna buy a car. If you like certain brands, you may walk in the grocery store and say, hey, I want this brand that I'm familiar with, and you may just throw it in the cart. I do that. There are certain brands, American brands, that I just like. And I'll give you one of them, the Coffee Mate Creamer. I don't like any off-brand creamer except Coffee Mate, and it's expensive here. I pay 429 pesos for the hazelnut here. That's almost like $7 maybe, where I can get the off-brand for maybe $2. But I don't like the off-brand. It makes my coffee taste horrible, in my opinion. And then you look at your receipt and you're like, damn. And you know why? Because imported goods are not automatically cheaper just because you move to Dominican Republic. I drink my Santo Domingo cafe, I eat Dominican food, I enjoy the culture, and there are a lot of things that I've adapted to just by living here. But I'm still Jay. And moving to Dominican Republic does not automatically erase 45 plus years of preference, habits, and expectations. And I don't think people really or fully understand this. You'll see people sometimes turn living cheap abroad into some type of competition, like I only pay $500 for rent, or I only pay $400 for groceries. I don't need a car. I live for $1,200 a month. And okay, that's great. But what I don't understand is, why are we competing to see who spends the least amount of money living abroad? Because that's never been my goal. I didn't move here to downgrade my life just so I can say I live in another country. Actually, I wanted the complete opposite. I wanted a life where I can feel better. I wanted time. I wanted freedom. I wanted a life that didn't feel so rushed. I wanted to be able to sit down with my coffee and not feel like I'm behind already before my day got started. I wanted more time with my family. I wanted more experiences. I wanted weekends where we can just get in our car and ride around and experience the country. I wanted to build businesses. I want to create. I wanted to wake up and feel like my life belonged to me. That's what I was chasing, not cheap. I was chasing freedom, and that's the difference. So let's just say somebody did tell you you could live off $1,500 a month, and maybe you can. Rent, utilities, food, internet, transportation, everything fits perfect. But what happens when you need dental work? What happens when your car needs repaired? What happens when the air conditioner goes out? What happens when you have to fly home unexpectedly? What happens when your family all of a sudden needs your help? What happens if you just want to take a trip? What happens when you want to go out and just enjoy yourself? What about health insurance? What about applying for your residency? What about savings? What about retirement? What about investing? What about these unexpected emergencies? Because here's something I know. A budget that only works when nothing goes wrong isn't a budget. It's the best case scenario because life doesn't stay in the best case scenario for very long. Something is bound to happen. That's just life. Here recently, my daughter needed braces and that wasn't in the budget. My car just needed new spark plugs. That wasn't in the budget. My wife's car just needed an air conditioner, a pump or something like that. That wasn't in the budget. She just wanted to redo our wall right here. Even though that's a want and not a need, that wasn't in the budget. And yeah, guys, I'm at my house. She put this new wall up. Tell me what you think about it in the comment section. So it doesn't matter whether you're living in Santo Domingo, Punta Cana, New York, LA, Miami, things are bound to happen. Because at that point, you realize there's a difference from being able to afford your monthly bills than being financially comfortable. And here's another thing we gotta talk about, because you hear people on the internet talk about this all the time. Man, for $2,000 a month, I can live like a king. I don't even know what that means anymore. What king? Because apparently this king doesn't have health insurance. This king doesn't travel. This king doesn't save money. This king doesn't invest. This king never has emergencies. This king never has to replace his laptop. Nothing ever breaks. This king never has to help his family. Apparently, this king just sits in his house all month just eating his groceries. That's not living like a king. That's surviving with a palm tree outside your window. And there's nothing wrong with living simple, because that's one of the beauties about living abroad. You realize you don't need so much just to live. But simplicity and deprivation, those are two different things. And people need to understand to stop confusing the two. And here's what I call a foreign lifestyle tax. It's not a real tax. It's not like something somebody's gonna send you a bill for, but you'll probably have to pay it, especially when you first move. I paid it. Because when people first move here, they don't immediately start living like the people who were born and raised in the country that they're in. You're probably gonna use Uber more. You're gonna want a furnished apartment. You're gonna wanna live in a neighborhood that you feel comfortable in. You may shop at the big supermarkets they have here. You might wanna buy imported products. You're probably gonna want private health care. You may want your air conditioner running more during the day than the average Dominican. You may wanna travel back to your country a couple times a year. Those little things are gonna add up. And can you reduce those expenses? Absolutely. And you probably will over time. I did. You'll learn what to shop. You'll learn what things actually cost. You'll learn what local products that you prefer. You'll figure out the transportation. You'll start to feel more comfortable. And you'll stop paying what I like to call I just got here tax, but it's gonna take some time. And here's the part that nobody tells you about as well. Sometimes your expenses goes up because your life becomes bigger. Think about that. You move abroad and you think you're gonna be sitting around doing nothing. But then what happens? You start to meet people. Somebody says, let's go to dinner. Then you got another person inviting you somewhere. You discover this restaurant you love. Then you start taking these weekend trips. You go to Samaná, you go to Punta Cana, you go to Harbacor, you go to Puerto Plata, Las Terrenas. And maybe if you live in Santo Domingo, you start exploring this city even more, like I did. There's gonna always be another restaurant, another event, another place that you haven't seen. And all of a sudden, you're doing more, you're experiencing more, and that results into you living more. Sometimes your expenses do go up while you're living abroad. That's because your life is getting bigger. But you know what? I'd rather budget for a bigger life than brag about how little I spend inside my apartment. And here's another lesson I've learned. A lot of times when you try to save money, in reality, it costs you more. You may get the cheapest apartment, but it's far away from everything. And for some people, that's okay. I'm talking about the people who don't want to be far away from everything. Now you're spending more money on transportation. And just say, for instance, you buy the cheapest furniture. 6 months later, you're replacing it. You choose a place that doesn't have a backup generator, and now when the power goes out, you're complaining. You skip getting health insurance because you want to save money until something actually happens. Now, I'm gonna tell everybody, don't skip on health insurance here. I can't think of anything at the moment besides health insurance that I recommend you do not skip out on. Get private healthcare insurance when you're living here. Don't say I didn't tell you, because what I've learned is that cheap and affordable, they're not the same thing. Because cheap is a price, affordable is the relationship between price and your financial situation. Something expensive can still be affordable to you, and something cheap can still be a terrible financial decision. And that mindset right there changed the way I look at living life abroad. So when I hear the question now, Jay, how much money do I need to live in Dominican Republic? Yes, I understand that question. But I think the better question is, how much money do you need to live the life that you want to live in Dominican Republic? Now we're getting somewhere. What kind of apartment do you want? What neighborhood? Do you need a car? Are you eating out twice a week, 4 times? Never. Do you travel? Do you have children? Do you need a private school? How often are you flying back home? What kind of health insurance do you want? Do you have debt? Are you still trying to save? Are you investing? Do you have an emergency fund? What do you do for entertainment? That's gonna be your number. Not mine, not some YouTuber, not someone in some Facebook group, yours. Use our budget as references. Use these cost of living videos as research. Watch my videos, watch somebody else's videos. Gather information, but don't build your life around somebody else's definition of comfortable, because you're the one that's gonna have to live that life when the cameras turn off. When I first came to Dominican Republic, I didn't have the perfect expat story. I took chances. I had plans that didn't work out the way I wanted them to. I had to regroup. I had to go back to the drawing board. I learned things the expensive way. I had times where I questioned my decision, but eventually I came back and I built something different. Today, I create content, I work, I build businesses, I spend time with my family, I drink my coffee, I still get frustrated, I pay bills, I have great days. I have days when things just get on my nerves, but it's real life, and that's important, because I don't want to sell anybody a fantasy that living abroad is going to solve your problem. It doesn't. You're going to have problems. You're going to have responsibilities. You're going to still need money. But here's what changed for me. My life now, it feels more like mine. And that's difficult to put into a spreadsheet. How much is a random Wednesday morning on my balcony not rushing? How much is having more control over my day? How much is that worth? How much is being present with your family? How much is that worth? How much is waking up and knowing the life outside of your window is the life that you deliberately chose? There's no line item on the spreadsheet for that. And that's what I think people are searching for when they start gathering information on moving abroad. They're not searching for cheap rent. They're searching for possibility. They're searching for another way to live. They're asking themselves, is there something else out there? Could my life really look different? Can I actually do this? And yes, maybe it can. But don't make the mistake as your goal is to simply spend less. If moving abroad allows you to spend less, great, take advantage of it. That's not what I'm saying. There are gonna be opportunities where you're able to spend less. And yes, you should take full advantage of it. Because I do. But try to save more, invest more, travel more, build something, create some breathing room for yourself. Stop feeling like every dollar is spoken for before it even hits your checking account. But don't get obsessed with trying to prove how cheaply you can live while you actually want to live in the first place. I didn't move here to build the cheapest version of my life. I moved here to build a life that felt more like me. More like the life I had back in the States, and the life that I saw myself having in the future as well. That's a life with more control, more experiences, more time, more freedom. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it cheap? Sometimes, but cheap was never my dream. The life was the dream. So next time somebody tells you they can live off $1,000 a month or $1,200 a month, the question I want you to ask them is, show me that life. Show me the apartment. Show me the neighborhood, show me the health care, show me the transportation, show me the emergencies, show me the weekends, show me what happens when something breaks, show me what happens when life starts to lifen. And then I'll decide if that's the life I want. Because your goal shouldn't be to try to build a life off the minimum amount that you need to survive. Your goal should be to build a life that you don't constantly need to have to escape from. That should be the goal. So don't move abroad to live cheaper. Move abroad because you found somewhere, some way to live better. Because 5 to 10 years from now, nobody's gonna care that you figured out a way to save $300 on rent. But you will remember if you actually enjoyed your life. And for me, that's the number that matters. So guys, if you're interested in moving here to Dominican Republic, I created what I call the DR cost of living calculator. The link will be in the video description below. And if you're interested in investing in real estate, I also have a link in the video description below that says I want to invest in real estate. Check it out. Also, I have two newsletters, Live Your Best Life newsletter and DR Insiders Real Estate newsletter. Links in the video description below. And also, if you want to be part of an amazing community, I created the DR VIP network. Links in the video description below. Every month we have live calls. We have people talking about remote jobs. We got experts coming in. We talking real estate. And until then, guys, y'all already know, keep your goals at the forefront of your mind. Always live in the present, because that's the only way you're going to live your best life. And I'm out. Peace.